So welcome. We're going to be going over, getting started and setting up Sierra Chart. I know a lot of you are switching and whatnot. Um, it's simply a great platform. There's a reason why I've switched to it and stuck with it. So as you can see, I have downloaded it right here from the site. So we're going to start right there and really start from scratch here. Okay. All right, blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually going to change this because this is the third instance. So I'm just going to name it Sierra Chart 3, but you guys don't need to worry about that right now. Very kind of advanced thing just there, okay? Da, 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 da. Installation is now complete. So I now have this icon on my desktop, and this is the first kind of login area. Okay, so put in my login information. Welcome to Sierra Chart. The very first step is to configure to set up one of your data or trade services. So what you need to understand about Sierra is that it's just a charting platform. Some of you that are just starting out with futures and whatnot, you don't really understand that they're different things. Your charting package, what data is coming in to fuel that charting package, okay? Many brokers, you just select and there it is. It's all together. So just gonna press no because I'm gonna show you how to do this manually. Let me bring over all the windows here that it just popped up. So this popped up. This is the message log whenever you fire it up and whenever anything's going. This comes up. Okay, I'm just gonna close it. It's not important. All right. So we go to File. And right now I'm connected to something. I don't even know what it is. Sierra Trade Data. Okay. But that's not important because that's not what anyone's really going to use. It's just like the free thing, I guess. All right. So we go to File and Data Trade Service Settings. And you start with this drop down at the top. One of my connections is CTST4. Okay. I'm actually going to pull this off the screen right quick because I'm not trying to give away my account info, so it's not there yet. So obviously I'm using a live server. I'll put in my username and password and the firm, which is all given to me. You'll have clear instructions on this when you actually talk to your broker and the data feed and say, okay, I'm using Sierra Chart and whatnot. Everything else you pretty much leave the same, except for your time zone. You definitely want to change that to where you are to get that all set up. So let me put in my my information here. Actually, I gotta look it up right quick. So we see I just put that information in. It's waiting to reconnect. Connecting. Connected. Okay. Now, it also says SIM at the top because I suppose by default, whenever you download this, Sierra comes in simulation mode. Okay, so that's one thing you need to know and understand. That is under this trade option right here. It's the first thing. So some software and data providers, you actually need a simulation server or a simulation data feed or connection. In Sierra, you can use your live connection, but if you want to go to sim mode and not have those orders sent to your broker and actually trade, you just select this up here, and if I turn it off here, it says, "Are you sure?" Yes. So now we're connected to my live connection here. We'll probably stay in sim mode here for all we're going to be doing here today. Okay. So in terms of pulling up a chart, how do we open up a chart? Well, it's not here. It's actually under File. Okay. And really, your first time doing it, you won't need to do this after a while. But really, I would say the very first time you fire this up, since you don't know your symbol terminology and lingo, you actually want to go to Find Symbol right here. Okay. Now, obviously, so here's all the symbols I have. I thought it was going to show something else. Sorry. So I trade a lot of crude, which is on the CME NYMEX exchange. CL is the symbol, and we're currently trading March. Now, notice it says I can open a historical chart or open an intraday chart. So you need to know the difference of those for Sierra. For Sierra, a historical chart is only end of day type of data. Okay, so if you're looking to build a daily bar chart, a weekly, a monthly, very long-term stuff, literally the only data is the open, high, low, close, and the volume for a day-to-day period. Okay, hope that's very clear. Intraday, on the other hand, is raw, unfiltered tick data for as long back as your data provider will provide. Okay, so let's just open an intraday chart here. Okay, so I'm just going to close this out, waiting to download historical data, downloading it, starts to load. So here we are. So Sierra is tremendously ugly when you fire it up. I hate their colors. I hate most everything about the default way of doing things. I hate all this stuff at the top, but we'll get to all that. So that's how you fire up a chart. What about our session times? So I'm just going to change this right quick to a different kind of chart. Right now, by default, up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see it opens up a 1-minute chart. Here's the symbol, and here's the time frame, and here's the number of this chart. Okay, this is chart number 1. It's the only chart we have open here. By default, it's maximized, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can position these things and do whatever you need to do. Okay, but we'll get to more of that. One of the first things is, maybe I don't want a 1-minute chart. Well, the great thing you'll learn about Sierra is hotkeys, hotkeys, hotkeys. I do almost everything as much as I can from the keyboard. Those of you that are good with computers, you understand that that's the most efficient way to do things. So if I want to change this time frame, I'm going to press 5, enter. Now it's a 5-minute chart. I'm going to press 60, enter. Now it's a 60-minute chart. I can just press I can type only the number, such as 5 or 60 or whatever, simply because I'm already in minutes. Okay. The very first thing was a 1-minute chart, so now I can just press the number to change that setting, and it stays in minutes but changes the quantity of minutes. Okay, if I want to change to, for example, you guys know I trade crude on a 1000 volume bar chart. I press 1000V, enter. 1000 volume bar chart. If I want to make it 7500 volume bars, I press 7500 and press enter. There we are. If I want a 500 Now a 250 tick chart, I press 250T, enter. And to be clear, you know, if you have multiple charts, you know, you need to be clicked on the chart that you want these keyboard things to go to, right? You have to have it highlighted. Okay, so let me just go to my 1000 volume bar chart like usual. Now that's not the only way to do it. If you forget what those things are, it's not the only way. You can either right click anywhere on the chart and go to your chart settings, or you can go to chart and the first thing is chart settings. Notice it says F5 right here. Again, a hotkey. I can just be working and press F5 and it brings up the chart settings. This toolbar up here is also totally customizable. I can right click and customize what buttons are up here, but I know already that CS is my chart settings. So that's another way of doing it, okay? Within chart settings, this is really where you're going to come and mess with your session times and things like that, okay? So, you know, let's say I need to see 90 days of data. Fine, you know, I don't for this example, so I'll just leave it at 30. Let's say I want to change the symbol that I'm looking at. I can go to find right here, or if I just know the name. Some of you, mine are stupid, mine are long, but many of you, I'm sure, is simply, you know, CL H7, you know, would probably be a lot of your symbols right now. But if you don't know it, go to find. You know, if I'm looking to trade the ES, I'll just go to ES and switch it and hit OK and OK and bring it up. Session times that are displayed on the chart, okay? So for example, the pit session for crude is 9 a.m. Eastern to 2:30 Eastern. So notice I don't make that 2:30, I make it 2:29 and 59 seconds, okay? That's just the way you want to get used to doing that kind of stuff for session times, okay? And I'm not going to use any evening session or anything. I'm just going to use today's regular trading hours and press OK. Okay, so now in this chart, it's, as you can see, the gap between where we closed yesterday and where we opened up today. So that's how you change your session times and the symbol. Another really important thing for market profile, volume profile, people using a lot of VWAP type of things, is what we call back adjusted data. Okay, so CR Chart will automatically do this for you with their own algorithms and whatnot. So if you go back into chart settings, notice there's multiple tabs up here. So I know that under advanced settings, right here, I can change my contract. Right now it's not continuous at all. So if you're not looking at a continuous contract, and we go back to before this contract was the front month, when was that? Let's just put up a 30-minute chart, and let's load more data. This will be good for you guys to see. 60 days. Well, a 30-minute chart's not going to be good to see it. 1-minute chart. There we go. All right, so before this thing was the front month contract, that's not what crude looks like at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, crude looks like this. It's actually trading tick by tick constantly. Here's 12 o'clock. Okay, so if I don't make it some form of continuous contract and you go back, it gets all terrible, you know, lack of data and whatnot, and no one was trading the March contract at this date in time. Okay, they were trading February or January or whatever, right? So we want our, especially if you're using any kind of volume profiling or long-term VWAPs or anything, you want to go to advanced settings and you want to change your continuous contract to a back adjusted contract, okay? I want mine back adjusted, and I don't want it to just roll over based on the due date when the contract expires. I want it to actually roll over dynamically based on, for example, it's March right now. Next contract will be April. Whenever the volume in April becomes higher than the volume in March, this thing will roll it over, okay? and it will automatically back adjust the data. If you don't know what that means exactly, go Google it. It's not what this is for here. So I'm going to make sure that they're back adjusted and whatnot. It takes a little bit longer to load because it's doing a lot more calculations, especially if it's a very long-term chart. You just press OK. So now it's downloading prior month contract data, and once it finishes that, it will seamlessly sync them together. You probably saw two very quick flashes on the screen. First it was loading last month, and then it loaded this month because that's all it needed to do a proper job and continue to be front month data wherever we go. Okay? Very important. All right, so right now whenever I click on the chart with the left mouse button, it doesn't do anything. I like to have a crosshair. So here's the crosshair. If you don't want to use the menu, you should, everything is accessible through all of these drop downs and whatnot. So tools, the first area you see, you can change from a pointer to a hand to chart values / crosshair. So I much prefer crosshair, so when you click, it brings it up. Okay, you guys know I like to click and talk about what I'm doing and show you the levels and stuff, and then I click again when I'm done because I don't want it on there. That's just me. That's how I like it to do. Okay, so click, it's there. It gives me, if I'm like, what is this price? Well, I can see over on the y-axis it's 64 cents. Okay, very quickly. So I think a crosshair is important actually. Now, one thing, if we kind of step forward here and talk about using maybe some other tools like drawing a line, okay? By default, Sierra, I don't like the way it is by default. Sorry, it's Friday, been a long day. Let's say I'm looking at this trend line here and I draw it. Fine, okay? Well, now I'm going to click again and do something else on this chart. Oh, it's still drawing trend lines wherever I click. It's stuck on that trend line drawing thing, okay? So I like it to revert after any single use of a drawing tool. I like it to revert back to my normal crosshair. So I'm going to go to Global Settings. I'm going to go to Tool Settings. And then this first setting, after single tool use, change to currently nothing. Change back to my chart values, which is the crosshair. So now, if I were to select, to draw a line like I have been doing, and I draw that line, now next time I click, it's just crosshair. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of all of these at once. And again, this doesn't have anything saved about my custom stuff to it, so it's already kind of driving me batty here, but we're going to get it set up. So I want to delete all drawings. So erase all non-text drawings. Okay. So actually that is my hotkey. I guess that is the one by default. So Alt-Shift-L. So I'm actually going to do it that way. So I'm just going to press that button. Are you sure you want to erase all the drawings? Yep. And it gets rid of them. So that's much better than coming in here and having a bunch of things, and what you can do is select each one of them, right click on it and erase it, or right click and press the delete button to get rid of it. So if you want to get rid of everything, clean slate, have a hotkey for doing that. And I'm going to teach you guys more about hotkeys next. All right, just for teaching purposes here, we're now going to look at two charts. So actually I'm just going to duplicate this chart so I don't have to do anything else with it. And I'm going to look at a 30-minute chart on the left and a 1-minute chart on the right. Okay? So right now when I click and I look at my crosshair, it's only showing up in the actual chart that I'm doing. I love to be able to click on the chart and actually see across all my charts where that is on other time frames. Okay, it really helps you dial in and make sure you're obviously you need to be looking at multiple time frames and whatnot. So to make it do that, I need to go to Tools, and I need to turn my global cursor on. Okay, so now when I turn that on and I click, check it out, it shows me exactly where I am on this chart here. Okay. Now, to follow this up and you know, for example, if I scroll all the way over here, here we are. This is where that is on that chart. It's these two up bars on the 30-minute right here. Okay. Now, as a different example, let's put all the charts to the end. Notice when the charts are scrolled to the end, it's green in the bottom right-hand corner. If you ever are not looking at the most recent ticks, most recent price data, it turns red. So as soon as I scroll away from that, for example, that'd be dangerous if I thought this was happening and click the buy or sell button. This is red here, which is saying, hey, you're not looking at the hard right edge of the chart. So let's get it there. I actually like to lock the fill space. In one moment, I want to take two notes right quick because I want to make this presentation better as I continue to do it. So right here, color, hard right edge, and what I'm going to talk about next is fill space. Okay, so I actually don't like the chart being right up at the edge. So if I actually scroll my mouse wheel, you see it moves where the chart is. Now, if I were to scroll it to here and then leave it alone, as new bars will be built, they will just build and build and build and just keep working their way towards the edge of the chart until it gets right there. Then it's going to start scrolling everything past. Okay, I don't want that. I like to do what's called lock the fill space. Okay, so I want a fill space, and again, I'm not zooming in or out of this chart. You scroll, you click and scroll at the bottom to do that. I'm simply shifting this chart without changing the properties of the axis, okay, or the zoom of the axis, I should say. So whatever chart you have selected, get it where you like it, and go to Chart and Lock Fill Space. Boom. So now, no matter what, even if I scroll back in time, it maintains this blank space right here. I don't know why, but myself and most other advanced traders that I know, they like a little bit of space right there. It allows your, I think it allows your imagination and whatnot to see potential better than just looking at the numbers immediately. So when I scroll back, it maintains that fill space. Another thing about the crosshair is, let's say, for example, I'm going back and I'm studying markets, and I'm looking at this 30-minute chart, and I want to study this up move right here. Well, why is my crosshair no longer showing up on both charts? Well, that's because this information it's not anywhere on this chart. Okay. Now, if I were to go up, notice we're trading 53.85 right now. If I were to go up, you'll see the horizontal one, but you won't see the vertical one because it doesn't exist right there. Okay. If you want to make all your charts go to exactly where you click, and again, I find this best for studying purposes when I'm going back and looking and building my playbook and doing things, studying past sequences. Not when I'm trading live and I click somewhere, I do not want all my charts to scroll to that point. I want to keep all my charts at the current edge. Okay. But first, I'm going to lock the fill space here just because I like doing that. And now the tool I'm going to teach you now, tools, we got to have the global cursor on, but now we're going to synchronize our charts. So not just when I have my mouse, but whenever I click and turn on the crosshair, this chart is going to move to be where this one is. Boom. No matter where I go, this chart is now going to follow it. Okay, so now we're looking at the same information there. Does that make sense? Now I'll just turn that tool back off. I have a hotkey for doing so. It has one by default in here, Control-Shift-S. I use a different one myself. Let's see if Control-End does. Okay, so I love if you're if you're going back and you're studying and stuff, and now you want to go back all of your charts to real time, just press Control End, and it moves everything to the right edge of the chart to real time. I'm sure there's a way to do that without the hotkey. There it is. Scroll all charts to end. Control End. The menu, as you can see, it tells you what the hotkey is as you look at it. Now, we're talking a lot about hotkeys here. How do you adjust them? How do you customize them? Global settings, customize keyboard shortcuts. Right there. So we'll go. You can do it. You can even set up trading, like buy and sell buttons. Okay, buy at the market, sell at the market. But we'll focus on tools. So, for example, align. For me, it's actually Control A. That's what I like to use. That's what I'm used to. Don't worry about making that yours. Just, you know, do something that makes sense for you, whatever that is. So I'm not going to use Alt 4. I'm going to change it to Control A, Enter. Now, this is cool. It tells you that this hotkey, Control A, is currently being used. That actually saves all. So whatever settings and everything I change here, it's actually going to save all, Control A. I'm okay with replacing that, but thanks for telling me what that was in case I didn't want to replace it. And I click Assign here. Boom. So now my tool, my line drawing, is now currently used by Control A. You can reset everything to defaults. You can clear everything. So now I'm going along, I'm talking, I can draw this line, I can draw this line, and I did so without having to go Tools, Line, then draw it. That takes too much time. We have to focus on too much information as traders to have to worry about our tools. So my left hand and my right hand are working simultaneously to do these things. Okay, delete it all. Yes, hotkeys, hotkeys, hotkeys. Some common hotkeys that I have are for a line like that, but then I really like a horizontal ray. Okay, I'm not going to go in and change all of these hotkeys, but a horizontal ray is really cool because, you know, if you're drawing a line, it's annoying to have to make it perfectly horizontal. You know what I mean? It takes a few extra seconds to kind of dial it in and get it perfect. Boom. It's much easier to have that. What's the hotkey for it by default? Horizontal ray, Control Shift H, which is horrible. How can I even do that with one hand? Anyways, Control Shift H. If I see this as a level right here, click it once to start placing it where I want. Click it again to release it. It's there. Awesome. So that's another one. I also really like drawing rectangles. So where is that? Rectangle. Okay, I'll change the hotkey to that. I love highlighting congestion areas with rectangles. Sierra chart, hideous color schemes. I don't know why they do this. We're going to change all this very soon as I teach you how to do that. I also love extended rectangles. As we know, support resistance areas are areas, right? Not lines. It's not to the tick. So extending rectangle is great. So instead of this line being here, I'm going to say, well, click and then position this second half. You see it's extending all the way to the right. This is the zone of support. Okay? Actually, looking at my notes here, I don't have something for colors and settings. Oh, chart graphics. Yes, I do. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about within tools, I'm creating another note here. Tools, graphics, settings. Okay. So for this rectangle here, I can click it at any point in time, and you see these circles. That's what I can really adjust. It tells me the anchor points that makes this shape or drawing. So I can click this again and then click it again to release it. Or if I just want to adjust the width of it, I can click the edge here and bring it in, and I can't adjust it up or down. So that's nice. If I wanted to keep this upper level precise and adjust this, I really don't want to drag this, because if, see, my mouse moves up and down, it's going to mess up the level that I've got. So if I got the level perfect and I just want to drag this edge, I click on the edge of this once to highlight it and select it, then I click again and then click again to release it. Okay. Now I can right click and I can do all kinds of things. Okay. I can create text. So for example, on a line here, go to modify the text. This is the prior, you'll want to automate this instead of do this, but prior day low. Enter. Now it tells me what this line is, and I can use that, right? No matter what I do with it, this is the prior day's low. Thanks. Great. If I want to get rid of that, just modify the text again, erase it, there's nothing there. If I want to change the color of this line, I can do so quickly with a couple default colors here, but if I want to change the style to a dash, I want to change the width of that line to be real fat, but all of that's done in the actual chart drawing properties as well. So the style, make it a line, the width, drop that back down to 1. Do I also want to extend it to the left? Sure, why not? I want to extend it to the right. Okay, different labels. I can make this automatically tell me what price it is on the right side by selecting this price label. Where do I want the label? What kind of background do I want? Do I want it at the bottom of the line or at the top of the line? Okay, or in the center? Do I want it on the left side of the line or the right side of the line? Okay, and again, no matter where I put this, now it's going to just update that price and do so there. Now, let's say that I like the price label. Let's say that I like this blue color. And let's say that I like it to be 2 width instead of 1. Now, I don't want to select that, and next time I draw a horizontal ray, it's back to that old one. All right, I obviously want to change the default settings for that line that I draw. So, chart drawing properties, save as. You have 8 different tool configurations that you can save, and name them so you know what they are. The default, whenever you press the hotkey or select the tool, however you do that, the default is the first configuration. Okay, so this is going to be blue with label, just so I know what it is. Now, I'm going to save it as TC1. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes. So now whenever I come in to draw that horizontal ray, it knows just how I like it. Okay. Now I can also save, for example, let's change this one to red. Okay. I can go in, right click, chart drawing properties. Let's save this one as the second one. You don't have to name them, but it just helps. I'm going to save it as configuration 2. So now you can make this advanced as you want. You got a line drawn there. Well, actually, let me go to the properties, and I'm going to load. I didn't go to save as. I'm changing my options here. I can change between these configurations that I like. Okay, you can do this exact type of stuff with all your drawing tools. Even the rectangles. You can have them with the a price label, right? So, boom, we got the upper and lower price labels on it. Change our color, how transparent that fill space is, what kind of outline color you want for it. Okay, and don't forget, if you want that to be your default, then save it as your first configuration. So now next time you draw that, it will do that. I can copy this and move it. Okay, create another one just like it. I can say, you know what, I actually want to, this was drawn as an extending rectangle, but you know what, I actually want to cut it off right here. I can cut it right there. Boop. Done. Extremely customizable. Hotkey, delete all, yes, done. Okay. Let me show you one really cool tool that I like. It's under More Tools, and I have a hotkey for it personally, but it's not built in by default. Reward Risk Marker. Okay. Your first click is where your risk is. Your second click is where your entry is. And your third click is where your target is. Okay. And check it out. Now it's done. Okay. Now it's done drawing that, so it's back to crosshair. My entry was 52.67. My stop was 39 cents, which was 28 ticks away from my entry. My target was at this price, which is 125 ticks away from my entry. The overall risk reward on this potential scenario here is 4.5. Pretty sweet, especially, and let's do it. Let's create a hotkey for it. Global settings, customize keyboard shortcuts, tools, more tools, reward risk. Mine, if I remember correctly, is Alt 2. And I'm going to assign it, replace what's using that. Okay. So now I'm trading, I'm looking at the stuff, I'm like, what's the risk reward of this trade? Alt 2, click, click. I want to get to this swing up here, and I can move this and place it on the left or right, and how far. You know, if it's in the way of prices, I can also go in here and customize all the colors, connecting lines. If I want to show it ticks or points or none, all this kind of stuff. And I can also, as usual, save various defaults for that. Pretty sweet. All right, what about the actual chart graphics itself? Okay. Each chart, if we go to, let's make sure we're showing each of these separate. So if I have this one selected on the left, and I go to chart graphic settings for this chart, this is how I change the text color, the background, the bars color, candlesticks color, everything like that. Okay. And I haven't taught this yet. Let me check my notes here. I'm just finding holes in my original notes for things I want to make sure and cover. Yeah, I think now would be a good time to introduce you to bar types. Okay, so not bar time frames like we were looking earlier, but if you know, this is obviously what we call an open, high, low, closed bar type. So I can go to chart and right here, this drop down, and change the bar type. So let's go to candlesticks. We like candlesticks. There we are. Okay. Now we're talking about the coloration and scheme here. One thing you need to know when I go to graphic settings, back to where we were, I can obviously come in here. Look at the first thing. Use global settings instead of these settings, and it's selected. Okay, so that means that no matter what, first of all, let me tell you how to change the global settings, and if this is checked, it will just change everything to the global settings. So here's our global settings, graphic settings global. So you come in here and you change all this. So we'll keep the global settings like they are, and if you want to change those, fine. But otherwise, if we go into individual chart graphic settings, I can uncheck this, and I want my text to be black. I want my background to be white. I want the grid, that's fine, that's fine. I don't really care about that because we're talking about candlesticks for what I'm using here. So what am I currently using? I've got a, well, we'll make it close. It's a blue outline with a white fill for up candles. It's the blue outline for down candles that are also filled with that blue. When I use a darker shade than that, but you get the idea, right? So you can have charts with different colors, right? But again, if I want to change this one to look like all the other charts in the chart book, which I typically do. Whenever I change my settings, I really adjust the global settings so it does it to everything. But if I want to change this back, I go to my graphic settings and I select use the global settings. Great. And all this stuff is still saved here, so if I uncheck this, it puts it back to that. Okay. Now, I originally for several years I traded off of NinjaTrader. Some of you may be familiar with that. And within Ninja, you can actually create multiple, I think they're called templates for your colors and different things. You can't do that with Sierra. You can't save multiple color configuration templates. You can simply have individual settings for a chart if you want to adjust those, and you can have global settings if you want to adjust those. What you can save kind of templates for, let's just add some indicators to this chart. So analysis studies is how you do that. Let's just add let's add volume, apply, so now it's at the bottom. Let's add MACD, great. Let's add a exponential moving average. Now, when I select that, I double click it, it adds the exponential average. If I want to go adjust it, it's settings. I click settings. Let's make it a 21 period and go to subgraphs here. That's where you adjust your colors and things like that. So let's make it hot pink, whatever. Another thing that Sierra does, so press OK, so there it is notice how it put this moving average exponential at the top of the chart right there. I personally don't want any of this stuff at the top of my charts. And actually, let me make one note right quick. Teach, right click, top chart. All right, so if I, from anywhere beyond to the right of the chart number, right click on any of this stuff, it gives me an automatic drop down for all the studies attached to this upper pane. So volume, this is price, and the moving average is in pane 1. This is in pane 2. You know that because I can adjust these panes, right? And then the MACD is in pane 3. If I right click here, I can mess with any study that's in this. If I right click here, I can adjust settings for the volume. Okay, I want to make it gray up bars and red down bars. Okay, I don't want to see this moving average exponential blah 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 at the top. Okay, so I can right click anywhere up here, or I could go to it there, or I could go to analysis and simply studies for whatever chart I have selected, and here's everything I have. Okay, so we'll teach you a couple things. This moving average, let's go to its settings. Display names, subgraph names, values, global, which means this thing up here. I can uncheck that and apply. Now it's gone. It's not up there. Let's say that I didn't mean to apply this moving average to price up here. I actually want to base this off of the volume. So I get a moving average of volume. I have to come change the input data to volume. And I also need to change the chart region because I want it to plot on top of the volume. I want it to plot in the chart region 2, the second one, which is where volume is. Okay, so apply. Look at that. Here is my 21-day average volume line. I can tell if we're above or below that. Okay. Another thing that might be helpful is to not just visually see it, but I'd like to know what is the, excuse me, this would not be 21-day because we're actually looking at 30-minute periods. But anyways, what is the average volume over the past 21 30-minute bars instead of just a line? So we go to our subgraphs tab and we have this selected, which is the only thing for this indicator, and I can actually put a value label. I want it to show up on the value scale, which is the y-axis numbers over here, and let's apply that. Boom, 221,000. So very, very customizable what you can do, all kinds of aggressive thing. Yeah, Stephen, I use cumulative delta myself. I'm aware of that. I don't know if you just want me to add it for the heck of it, but we can do that. So there it is. Change it to a 2-minute chart. There we are. And again, if I don't want this stuff up here for this pane, I can go into its settings. I can turn off this display name, blah, 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 and apply. And now it's nice and clean. I like less clutter myself. All right, now we can't save color configuration, different ones, multiple ones to be able to apply. But what we can save is this set of indicators. Let's say this is my go-to, right? And I don't want to go to File, new intraday chart, open up crude oil, blah, 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 and then have to redo everything. Okay, so let's say we opened up a new chart right here. And I want all of this to be like that over here, okay? So what I need to do in this chart is, again, go into my analysis studies, save studies as a study collection. So I'm going to name this one as garbage because all these indicators is just a big garbage dump, MACD and everything. And I could just save a single one, the only one I have selected, or I could save all of them. Yep, I'm going to save that as garbage. Thanks. So now when I have this chart selected, I can actually go to analysis and look. I can switch between, by default it allows me a clean chart, or I can switch to my garbage chart, which applies all that. Want to go back to clean? Fine. Very nice. Now, even looking at this chart right now, let's make it big. This bugs me a tremendous amount. The way the axis is, this is terrible. Let's change it to candlesticks as well. It's too spread out, okay? And maybe by default Sierra is too zoomed out. I don't want it to look like this. So you adjust your x-axis by simply pressing the up or down arrows on your keyboard, or more oftentimes I actually click and hold and drag simply the x-axis at the bottom for in and out, okay? Now again, when it comes to y-axis here, I don't like this. I said it was too spready. When I right-click this y-axis before you try anything, your default click and drag right now is set to change the range, okay, of the y-axis. So when I do that, it's going to spread it out or narrow it, okay? I don't like that by default because for me personally, I like to keep a fixed range and then be able to simply move everything like this. And I'll teach you how I'm doing that. So I like to change this to interactive scale move. And so now when I click and drag, it just moves it. It keeps my fixed ratio just like I like it. But we've got to make it do that here. I'll show you in a second. But now when I hold control and click and drag, now it adjusts the other one. So now I'm adjusting the scales. So I think it's really important not to have your charts look like this because there's no good information there. And I think it's also important not to have your chart look like this because you lose some things. And it's harder to see some of the patterns and whatnot and the swings. You want to have a happy medium of how that chart looks. You want to be particular about that. Once I get that the way I like it, I'll change it from automatically adjusting Oh, right. If you do like to keep your charts at automatic adjust and you have messed with it, just double click and it goes back to auto. So now whenever I scroll, it'll make it big. Right, so 53.40 up to 54.22, 80 cents, and now it's 53.60 to 53.80s, right? Essentially 30 cents. So it changed my axis to fit as wide as it can, all the bars. I don't like that. I like to say this is a decent move. Let me keep that as a constant range. In fact, let me go into the actual scale settings, and I want to keep it as a constant range, which is 85 cents. I don't care about keeping the last bar within view. I'm just going to keep it manual. And I don't want it to recenter every time I scroll. I want it to be purely manual. Okay? So now when I go from here to where previously it was all scrunched up, I have a frame of reference. This is not very active trading. This is not very volatile trading compared to immediately what I understand. Whereas if you have it set, let's go back to automatic, and I look at this, okay, it's moving from the top to the bottom. Okay, this move is the same size as that last move, but no, this is 20 cents and the other one was 80 cents. So I'm a big proponent of keeping more of a fixed scale and being very particular about what your charts look like to make you a better trader, to make you more responsive to changes in volatility and whatnot, and seeing them visually on the chart. So that's how you adjust your axes. Now, I have multiple monitors here, and everything we've been looking at is inside this window. I can't get it out of the window. It just cuts it off. I can't drag this. Literally, like when I put this to the edge of my chart here, it's not showing up on my other monitor. Okay, it's just cutting it off. But I can, and again, we have this main Sierra chart window. Here it is, right? Okay, I can obviously place this on different monitors and do things. Now, we need to be able to get these charts out of the main window, right? So we do that by selecting one. I have a hotkey for it personally, but if you don't have that set up yet, window, detach or attach window, Control-Alt-Delete, D, Control-Alt-D, okay, which is actually the one I still use, so I never changed it from default settings. So I press that button, boop, it went to another monitor. I'll bring it back. So now it's outside of the Sierra chart main window. Okay. I want to bring this one out too. Start creating a real workstation here with everything. So let's say I want to duplicate this chart. Here we go, and I want to reattach it back into. I just use the same detach or attach hotkey. It puts it back in. I'll maximize it in this window. Start to set these things up, right? This is how we get things going. Not only can you detach windows from the main, there's only ever going to be one main Sierra chart window, but I can actually, literally this download of Sierra chart right here, which is in my C drive, and I remember I named it Sierra chart 3. That's because I actually have Sierra chart 1 and 2 downloaded as well. You can run multiple instances of this software simultaneously. You can go into your data trade service settings and have one Sierra chart running a connection to your stockbroker and your equities data feed. You can have another instance of Sierra connected to a futures broker. You can get them to connect to multiple brokers and have everything set up and whatnot. Okay? Multiple instances of the same software running simultaneously. You can't, for most data feeds, you can't run multiple instances connected to the same data feed. It won't let you do that, or else we could just all share a login and get free data for people. So you can't do that. But very, very powerful. Multiple instances. Okay, chart books. Okay, this is important. So you guys that watch me trade each day, you probably hear me press a button on my keyboard and the screen you see flips between crude and ES. I constantly flip between them as I analyze each of those two markets that I focus on. So notice there's a tab for it, Chart Book 1, and actually I like my tabs, actually I don't like to see chart book tabs, and I honestly don't remember how to adjust that. Maybe general settings, general 2. I honestly don't know, but actually let's use this as an example to show you how you can do this stuff. So I'm going to search Sierra chart hide tabs. Tabs, global settings, general 1, show chartbook tab. So I was in the right spot, I just didn't see it. So general settings, here it is under the tabs section, show chartbook tabs. That's wasted space for me because all I need is a hotkey to switch between tabs. So I'm going to remove that and apply. Now I've got more screen real estate there I can use. I didn't need that. Now if this chart here, let's reattach it. Now I have two different charts and maybe it's maximized. I like to be able to switch between those charts. Okay, let me make a note here. 1 second, guys. Hide tabs. Rename tabs. Rename charts. All right, so I don't like this name here. You know, this, I'm going to right click on this tab and hit rename. This is my 1 minute, and this chart, let's make it a 5 minute, and I'm going to rename it to be my 5 minute. You know, or maybe you want to name it with your method, like this is my trading time frame, right? You know, anything you want to do, you can name those and flip back and forth. Now, what I wanted to also teach is that everything you see here is what's called a chart book. Okay, so let's save it. This is my crude oil test chart book. Okay, so now I can actually, you know, if I were to close out of Sierra or whatever, or even just close the chart book, but let's say that I was done with Sierra and totally closing out of it, and re-logging in. When I log in, it's going to be blank. It's going to be like this. There's nothing there. Okay. So let's say we logged in, and I want to open up what I had. So what it automatically does is it lists your most recent 14 used ones. If you need to go find one and you know, go to open chart book, but it's just right there. So fire it up. There we are. Everything's saved. You know, it's all good. Now I like to look at two markets. So I don't want to go to chart settings and change the symbol. And you know, that's stupid. So I'm going to create a new chart book, and I'm actually going to go ahead and give myself a hotkey here for changing between chart books, which I do not know where that is. There we go. Next chart book. Oh, it's F8, so I actually used the default one. Okay, so here's my new chart book, which I've done nothing with. F8. Here is my crude oil chart book. So I like all these charts. I'm actually going to detach this one again. put it back here. So I'm going to duplicate this. I like my layout. I just want to make it for a different market. Okay. So I'm going to go to chart, duplicate chart to chartbook, and this other one that I haven't named. I'm not going to switch to it. I'm just going to duplicate it. Okay. So now when I press F8, it's there, that one that I duplicated. Okay. I'm going to repeat that for the other two charts. Duplicate chart to this chart book, and this one I'm going to duplicate chart to chart book. This time I'm going to switch to it because I'm done working over here, so take me to the new one. Here's the new one. They look identical now, but I'm also going to teach you chart linking here because I want to change the symbol, but I don't want to change it one at a time. So for each of these charts, I'm going to go to the settings. I'm going to go to Advanced Settings 2 tab, okay, right here. Link number 1 by symbol. You can link all kinds of things, but I'm just concerned with the symbol here. Okay, do the same here. And for this one, okay. Now I'm going to go into chart settings for any one of these charts, and I'm going to change from crude to ES, March ES. Okay. Now I also know that my RTH times are wrong now. Crude oil has a different pit session than ES, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this so you can see this. Downloading the data. Keep in mind, I duplicated all these charts, so they're all continuous volume-based back-adjusted contracts. How do I know that? Symbol name, brackets with CBV, continuous back-adjusted based on volume, and then 5-minute chart. CBV, CBV. So I know that they all are. So now it's ES. Now let's go to this chart and its chart settings, and let's change it to ES RTH hours, which is 9:30 Eastern to 4 p.m., which is 15:59:59. Okay. And actually, I made a mistake because in my chart settings, I did not also link the session times, which I normally don't actually, because some charts I'm looking at the full 24-hour session, and some charts I'm looking at RTH. But if I had have selected session times as well, they would have all adjusted to that new time. Okay. Grab a drink of water here. So just so you can see, I'm actually going to change this. Chart text, black, background to gray, whatever. Okay, so here is my ES book, and whenever I press my hotkey, I'm looking at crude, looking at ES, blah, blah, blah. Very, very quick, flawless switching, analyzing markets exactly the way I like to, for both the same way for each market. Chart linking, I covered that. All right, overlay charts. This is important. So I want to go back to crude. All right, and delete this because I don't need it. So I'm going to remove this. Actually, I'm going to include them both in here just to make things easy. Got my 1 minute and my 5 minute. All right. Let's say that I like my 1 minute chart to be the regular pit session hours, but I like my 5 minute chart to show me 24-hour period, which I always set to when the market reopens each day at 1800 Eastern. Okay. All right. So now this is a 24-hour chart, and this is RTH only. If I want to know, as I do with my trading, I want to know the previous day's high and low, and I want to know the overnight session high and low, and I want my charts to do that for me automatically each day. Five-minute ETH chart and 1 minute RTH. Okay. I'm just going to duplicate this chart, and this chart is not going to be ever used. It's just going to serve as a function. Okay. So I'm going to rename it overlay, RTH overlay. All right, so this will all make sense here shortly. On this RTH only, I'm going to double check. Yes, 9 a.m. to 14:29. I want to know the high and low of the previous RTH session. I want to make this a 30-minute chart. So we get a lot of days in here. And I'm going to add that study. It's called Daily Open High Low Close. Let's add it. Let's go into its settings. I don't care about the open. I'm going to ignore it. It's draw style. I don't want it to draw it at all. I don't care about the close. I'm going to ignore that. The high and low we're going to draw as dashed lines. The high is green, the low is red. I don't want it to display anything at the top. And I want it to reference, I guess as it is by default, 1 day back. Apply. Use this intraday chart. Let's check it. Looks good. You can see that the high from this day, actually, I'll teach you another thing. Chart settings, let's say I want vertical grid lines enabled for 1 day, so it separates day by day. There you go, easier to see day by day. Okay, so the high of this day was right here, and that shows up on the following day. The low of this day was here, and it shows up on the following day. Okay. Furthermore, remember we can label these things. Here's daily open, high, low, close. I want this label as a short name, because normally I need to change the short name because normally it's just going to go high. This is previous, not the perv high, prev high. And I just want it at the right edge. Let's see what it looks like. Nice. Name level, previous low. Apply. Great. Okay. Adjust my fill space to where it's kind of right there. Perfect. Okay. Now, let's duplicate this chart, and it's only going to be overnight. Duplicate chart. I'm going to go ahead and rename it to overnight overlay. Okay, and I like to put them over here. I can drag and drop these things, the order of them, because I don't use them. I focus on, anyways. So this is the overnight overlay, and I need to change the session times to 14:30, so at the close and onward, up until we open 1 second before the open, 8:59:59. Okay, now I need to also change the names of those to overnight high and set up previous overnight low. And I'm also going to make these one width and dashed instead of two and solid, so it's also visually different when I look at it each day. All right, overnight high and low. Right. So I don't really care about these charts, but one thing I need to remember, we'll talk about, is that the chart numbers. So the RTH overlay chart is chart 2. The overnight overlay is chart 4. Okay. And here's my real 2 charts. And I want this information brought over. I want to know the overnight high and low and the previous high and low onto the same chart. Now, why can't I just add these indicators themselves? Because it won't calculate. I need to calculate only for this session what's the high and low, which is the overnight session. And it'll tell me automatically the high and low over XYZ period, but I want to know them split out, so I do it that way. So now you can in Sierra you can overlay what's called overlay any chart, study, or price data or anything onto another chart, and we do that with a study. So let's just focus on this RTH only chart here. Let's keep these where we can see them. Okay. So the study I'm going to add, analysis, studies. Now quickly to get to studies, you click anywhere in here and then start typing the name of what you want. So I know that this is called study / price overlay. So there I am. Okay. It's much better than just scrolling through all this to find it. So I'm going to add that. Let me teach you how this works. Go into its settings. Settings and inputs. Study to overlay. First I have the chart that it comes from. So for the RTH overlay, it's chart number 2. So here is chart number 2. And I don't want its price data. I want that daily OHLC study that I had made. So let's apply it and see how it works. I forget the exact way to do it. Oh, it thought we would want it in the lower pane because we're attaching a study. So chart region, let's make this up in the top region. And also notice it's because the other chart is a 30-minute chart and this chart is a 1-minute chart, it's only putting little specks every once in a while. So first let's move it up into the right pane, apply that, there it is. Now fill blanks with last value. I'm going to switch that to yes so that it now fills in all the holes. All right, so as you can see, here's yesterday's low right there. It is now plotting that right here as we start a new day. And again, just to be clear, let me go in here and enable the day markers so we see where they start and end. And this day's high was right there on the open, and it put that there today. Let's add our overnight one as well. So our overnight is chart number 4. So we're going to go to studies. I'm going to type in study price overlay. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to go to its settings. I'm going to choose chart number 4 and that study from it. I know that I need to change it to fill blanks, and I know that I need to make it chart region 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do those things. And there, I need to always use the short names from the source study. So notice how it just says high, high, low, low. I actually need to go in here and change each of these to yes. Yes, so now it's telling me overnight high for that. And right quick, for the overnight one, I can also change the short name of this overall overlay study. So this is the overnight high-low. Okay, doesn't do it automatically right here, but it will if I were to close and come back. Settings, previous high-low, and I need to use the short names from the original study and apply that. Okay, so now if I go into my studies again for this chart, here's my previous high-low, here's my overnight high-low. I know exactly where to go rather than looking at this junk. to adjust them since they're both the same study. It's just an overlay study. Okay, so there we have it. Now I have an issue here. It's changing the overnight high low during the middle of the day. Okay, I know why that is because I've done this before. It's changing it because I have it set to nearest match, and it needs to be containing match. Okay, the actual previous one. So there we go. Now I don't like my price being on top of the labels, so I would adjust it out to where price is before the labels. Okay. Now you have it. Oh, okay. All this work that I just did for something, you know, for example, let's go to the original studies in the RTH. This previous high and low, anytime I add a daily OHLC indicator to a chart, I'm typically looking to do this, so I don't want to have to adjust all those settings again. I'm going to save these settings as default. I don't know if I have to do this, but I always click apply and then OK. You're probably OK just clicking this and then clicking OK. But now, if I ever load one of these again, it's going to do it with these labels. It's going to do it with this color. It's going to ignore the previous day's open and close and just show me exactly the way I have it here. So you can save any study when you customize its colors and settings as a default. Okay. Let's make a market profile chart. Okay. So I don't care about these. And I have my 1 minute RTH only chart here. I've got my 5 minute chart. So I'm actually this time just going to open a new intraday chart. And I want March crude oil, which I know that that's that. Let's open it. All right, there we are. Let's maximize it. Now, it doesn't really matter anything about this because it's all going to be changed because I'm going to add a study to make it a market profile chart. TPO profile chart. Double click, apply. Oh, so ugly Sierra chart. All right. So this is a market profile chart, and let's check our settings. So right now, it's starting at midnight, going through midnight the next day. I want only my day session profiles, so 9 a.m. to 14:29. Okay, there we are. All right, so it's very important with market profile. On a day, even more so than when I was talking about things earlier, to not have your scale adjust. And let me show you why. I'll teach you about this later. I'm just going to do this right quick. Letters, because we know each day that you market profile people. So now it looks good, but the font's too small. This sucks. We know that each period is A, B, C, D through K period. That's how crude oil, that's how many periods it has. And if you change your scale, okay, then all of a sudden I can't read these letters. They're on top of each other. Is that, you know? And the width of it, look at the space in between these letters. That's too much space. That's too jumbled up. It's very important to get the proper spacing both on the x-axis and our y-axis. Look at that. That's how it's done. Now, there's another thing with these kind of profiles. I prefer to see more data, so I'm actually going to change this to 3 ticks per block size so I can actually scrunch it up a little more and see most days recent action. Okay, so this looks good to me. It's not overly scrunched. It's not overly wide. It's perfect little blocks. Now, I don't actually use the letters anymore. I use it the way it initially came to us, in blocks. So for your blocks, when you're setting them up, think about it this way. Don't make them rectangles like this, okay? See, each one is a rectangle. Don't make them rectangles like this, vertical. Make them squares. Very important. You want to see them as squares, okay? Now these colors are horrendous, so let's just go in here to our settings and go to the subgraphs tab. Make our letters gray. Make our point of control red. I don't want it to display anything at the top. Highlight the open. Yes, I like to know where we open. Highlight the value area and point of control. Let's just make that no. One trick that I do, actually let's keep it as yes because I like to highlight the point of control. I'll change the value area color to be the exact same as the TPO color, so it doesn't actually highlight it, but it still highlights the point of control. I don't know what these green and red lines are, but I don't want them. And I don't want this blue line. I know is the initial balance, so the initial balance sets it to 0. Highlight the midpoint in the profile. I guess that's what this purple dot is. I do not want that. And I don't like the orange color for the opening block, so let's change that to a blue. You guys following along here? I know it's a lot of stuff, but I'm giving you the gist of it here, and you can you'll know at least where to go to start messing with your settings. I like to extend the value area to the end of the period. Okay, so it puts these lines out there, so now I know where the value area is. You can extend the point of control. You can change the color of those extensions. Let's make this red like it's highlighted. Let's make this gray like the rest. Okay, so something like that. So that's how you create market profile charts and start to customize them and look like what you want. Whenever you right-click on a profile, it gives you custom commands. I can merge it with the next profile. I can split them out into each in their own column. Let's say that I've merged these two and split this one and merged these two. And now I'm like, okay, I just want this to go back to the way it was without having to unmerge and undo this stuff. All I have to do is right click and do reset TPO chart, and it puts everything back to the way it was. Remember, all these changes I made, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to save these settings as default. So next time I open a TPO chart, it's going to look just like I like it to look. You guys are hanging with me here. It's a lot of stuff. See you, dude. All right, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but a footprint chart is something that can be helpful. So I just want to show that right quick. Those of you that are beginners should not worry about footprint chart, which will only make you study it more, but it's not going to help you. To create a footprint chart, you take whatever kind of bar chart you want. So I have a 5-minute chart here. I know that I like maybe a 16-tick range bar actually for my footprints in crude. And again, it's by adding a study, and it's called numbers bars for whatever reason in Sierra chart. Apply. So here we are. We'll have to zoom in to actually see this stuff. And so it's set up a certain way right now. This is showing, I suppose, volume at each level. I'm not even sure. But we go into our settings for it. It's showing the volume, full background. I don't want the volume. I want the volume at the bid and the volume at the ask in separate columns. So there we go. And again, you can color the background based on a number of different things. So you can color it based on the dominant side, whichever there was more volume on which side. It's going to highlight that for you. Full background. You can, instead of it just being a block with a full background, you can make it only background on the dominant side. So there we go. You can make it a volume profile and still color it based on where it was on the dominant side in terms of where more volume was at the bid or the ask. Okay, all kinds of things you can do with that and see where volume's being traded at and the bid and the ask at different prices. Beyond a footprint chart, how about some regular volume profile charts? So I'm going to remove, so again, I'm just right-clicking at this upper bar here. I can go in and edit studies. I can remove studies. I can temporarily hide them and then show them again. So remove it. So let's look at a 5-minute chart. Automatic scale. Look where we can see a couple days here. Okay. And volume profile is, again, it's a study. And it's called volume by price. That's what they call it, okay? So it's going to be something by default. It's going to be something really ugly and hideous. Oh gosh, that's just bad. Okay. All right. So we want to adjust it. So this is showing us what looks like volume of just all of this stuff. So what if we want day-by-day profiles? Let's just do that as an example. Draw mode, volume profiles, the volume graph period type. So this, again, is showing visible bars. Everything I can see on the chart, it's going to show the volume for. I want it to show multiple profiles based on fixed time, and I want that time to be 1 days. Let's go ahead and apply that. Okay, so now we can see that, did I do something wrong? Multiple profiles based on fixed time. Okay, and I actually want to change it from right aligned to yes. I want this edge at the right side of the chart. There we go. Oh, and how many ticks is this? Looks big. 2 ticks, that's fine. So if I were to zoom out, you can see now that I have a volume profile for each of these days. Right now it's showing red and green, which is the bid volume versus the ask volume at each of those prices. I do not care about that, so I don't want it to show separate bid-ask volume coloring. Nope. Just apply and give me some basic profiles. Very good. And that's essentially it. You can get advanced, guys. You can get it to draw peaks and valleys. So let's say I want to see where the main peaks are. Look at that. Each of the main peaks, it draws it back out into the chart. So if you're using that information for some reason, you can do that. Most of you guys know I focus more on LVNs, the low volume areas. Instead of a filled volume bar, lately I've been really awesomely excited about using this hologram, just the outline. I like that a lot. And I'll change the color of the outline to something a little lighter that shows up more. Change the graphic settings. Up fill is white. Up outline is gray. Down outline is red, and down fill is also red. 15-minute chart. see more days and how we're trading around each day's volume. That's the gist of it. So many things you can do. Highlight the point of control, all kinds of stuff. Now, I don't like, let me change this back to filled volume bars. So I don't like looking at price and trying to analyze price trading across volume, right? So we've got our fill space, and look, it just moves with it. I'm holding control and scrolling the mouse wheel. I like it to just be away from the profile. So the setting for the profile, and again, here's this profile. I don't want that information up there, so I also need to uncheck that. Come in here, and the setting to do that is always display last profile within view. Yes, apply it, and now it moves that profile into the fill space, and I can move price off of that. That's just a preference that I have. You could put a profile like I have on my charts, that one profile is only the overnight action and one profile is the day session. You can add multiple ones. You can put a big profile over whatever period of, if you want to make it 1 week instead of 1 day, just do that, right? The width is a big deal. The default settings are huge. You can choose 2 different ways to change the width of the profile. One is based on the period, one is based on the window width, and then you can do automatic. So window width, I do not want this volume profile covering 70% of my window. Maybe, what do I like, 15, I think? 15%? It's more like it. Give it 20. That's fine. Okay. That's more my style there, is doing it that way. All right, for monitoring the rollover and where volume's trading across different months, I like to set up a quote board. So File, New Quote Board. It opens up a blank one. I could actually go into my chart settings here and just copy this just to have it, because mine are difficult. Double click, paste that. All right, so there is March. And actually, I'm going to go into the settings and change the fields it's showing. Don't care. That's fine. Don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. I want the volume. That sounds good. I'm going to move the volume up to the second one because that's what I care about most. So, very simple. The symbol, volume, last price, and how much it's changed today. Here's March. I'm going to paste this in here, and I know how to change this to April. There you go. March is still trading 4 times the volume of April. So I will keep this little window up somewhere on one of my monitors and check it each morning to see where the volume is and if I need to roll over and what's going on there. Okay. Overlay drawings. I already talked about that. Oh, no, I didn't. Overlay drawings. Okay. So let's say that I think that this area right here from yesterday's market profile, for whatever reason, is significant. So what I'll often do is an extended rectangle and say, you know what, guys, this zone is important. Okay, now that's great and all, but I don't stare at the market profile maybe all day. Maybe I stare at this intraday chart a lot, and I want this drawing to actually, anything I do, to show up on this chart. Tremendously helpful for maintaining situational awareness, to have your higher time frame chart drawings show up on whatever charts you want. So I choose what chart I want it on. So for example, this is chart number 5, and I want this drawing to show up here, okay, for this chart. And let's go to chart settings for this chart, and advanced settings 2. copy chart drawings from these charts. Okay, well I just want them from chart 5. Okay, there it is. That drawing will now show up on this chart, so I'm aware of it. If it changes over here, it changes over here. One cool little feature with Sierra is I can actually turn on show the where is it? Maybe it's in trade. Yeah, show the depth. Oh, the market's closed. Sorry guys, it won't show it. But it will show little bars. You can make them whatever color you want, but if there's more trade, let's see, I'll draw it as it would show. Okay, so we're trading at 53.85. Maybe there's a buyer here for that much, a buyer here for that much, a huge buyer right here, and then more people, and then there are sellers for this much and this much and this much and this much. So if there's a abnormally large order, I'll see that showing up right there. And again, that's just under the trade menu for whatever chart, and you turn on show depth. You can make your dome on your chart. Whoa, it's actually showing the depth. I don't know how that, maybe I have to have trade mode on. I don't know. But anyways, that is that. You can trade, if you want to pull up a dome, you can open a trading dome, just select the symbol, open it up. If you want to trade from the chart, you can go in and attach chart trading windows, and you can trade directly from the chart. Again, market's closed here, we won't be able to do that, but there's plenty of written documentation on how to do that, and it's pretty self-explanatory. That is, I think, covers it. Any questions? Oh, where did I click for the hologram? It's just on the settings for the profile, so go to the profile settings. Filled volume bars draw method, about halfway down. Filled volume bars, and then it's in this drop down for hologram. Cool. Did I miss any questions? Sure. You could use it for peaks, valleys, whatever you like. Alright guys, I hope this has been helpful. Time to kick off the weekend here, and we will see you all on Monday.